I am an evil green dragon, and I have become a god through farming. Introduction. Thor, who suddenly reincarnated into a different world, is accompanied by divine fragments. But the steady Thor did not choose the invincible flow style of play, but chose to hold on more steadily and not waver. However, since the upgrade of the divine fragment, everything will be shattered. What, the foreign land is about to invade. After learning the news and the truth, Thor had to frantically build up his fighting power in order to survive in this chaotic world. In this battle between planes, there is no right or wrong between the two sides, only a final effort to continue the plane. But due to the invasion, the old situation has been shattered, and a new situation is about to be established. What kind of change can Thor make in the chaos between these two realms? Chapter 1. Wake Up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Wake up. A nearly boundless green deep forest, towering and undulating towering trees, lush miasma, and roaring animal roars. They all talk about the danger and mystery here. In a karst cave several tens of meters deep underground on the southern edge of the forest outer circle, an elliptical stone ball that almost blends with the surrounding moss is quietly embedded there. The small animals that came and went also turned a blind eye. But at this moment, an unblinking light flashed away. Eggs suddenly came to life. Under that light, the egg developed rapidly and the embryo inside formed rapidly. In less than a moment, all I heard was a click. Egg, it cracked open. What's wrong with me? The thoughts in my mind were not yet clear, but I couldn't help but say in an almost singing tone, Saul Simpson Macedonian. Sultan was stunned when he realized that in his previous life, he wasn't walking on the roadside, holding a 4,090 reward from his slightly older girlfriend, yet he hadn't finished showing off. How could he open and close his eyes, and that's all? Before Soul had finished roast, a huge amount of information poured into his mind. After about a moment, Thor finally realized it. So, I've traveled through time. Still crossing over to become a dragon, or the green dragon among the 5 color dragons. What I just said is my true name as a dragon. Only a dragon can reveal its true name at the moment of birth. There is no mention, so it is most likely a dragon beast. The only difference between the two is wisdom and bloodline memory inheritance. Moreover, I not only traveled through Jackie Chan, but also had a fragment of accompanying deities in my mind. There is a way, which gives birth to 1, 2, 2, 3, and all things. The divine fragment in one's own mind is the one that gives birth to the Tao. Before Thor could continue to think, the acid in his stomach was already burning and Thor's pain was unbearable. At this time, what time travel, what divine fragments, what green dragons, get the hell out of here. My mind is completely hungry now, hungry, eating, then use the remaining rationality to find the information that you can eat eggshells. Grasp the eggshell and you'll be a cool and dazzling meal. After eating it, without the feeling of hunger above, Saul felt that the eggshell was a bit cotton, and it wasn't so crispy when eaten. The taste was like eating calcium tablets. Then looking around, it seemed like I was in a cave. The cave is dark, but fortunately, I am a dragon and can try it at night. There are not many large creatures around, but there are many small reptiles. Thor did not act recklessly, but instead continued to digest his own bloodline memories. This world is a world where magic, fighting spirit, and gods coexist. There are also many races, including humans, dragons, elves, goblins, dog-headed humans, trolls, and so on. The general strength can also be divided into apprentices, ordinary, elite, extraordinary, masters, legends, and demigods. And dragons are born to be elite, extraordinary in their childhood, masters in their youth, and legendary dragons in their adulthood. It is difficult to cross the legend and become a demigod by building a dragon from a high starting point. Thor also learned from his bloodline memory that dragons are divided into 5 color dragons and metal dragons. Most of the 5 color dragons are chaotic factions, while the metal dragons are mostly orderly factions. And these differences are created in the care of future generations. Most metal dragons have a habit of raising offspring until adulthood. And the 5-colored dragon will only allow you to live in his territory, and after a certain period of time, you will be expelled from his territory. But even so, dragons will quickly and safely pass through their extremely fragile infancy. But when Thor looked around himself, there was no sign of the green dragon's lair or any trace of its habitat. I also learned from my memory that humans and wild monsters seem to prefer to hunt down unguarded dragons like myself. As for why there are no parents, the divine fragments provide the answer. The original deity fragment carried by oneself was called vitality. This egg was originally a dead egg, created by the vitality and divine power of its own soul and divine fragments. Thinking of this, Saul became even more afraid. Let's not talk about the later part for now, let's just talk about the current situation. I need to get through the early stages. Dragons, on the other hand, quickly pass through their youth in a dormant state, which requires a large amount of meat to supplement. Thinking of this, Thor gathered his spiritual power on the shards of the deity. This fragment of one's own deity does not require the traditional creation of a church, the promotion of doctrine, the attraction of believers, and the acquisition of divine power. All you need to do is plant a continuous stream of green trees, or absorb the surrounding vitality healthily and transform it into divine power. Moreover, this divine fragment of oneself can also radiate vitality to the surroundings, cleanse blood vessels, treat injuries, and a series of other functions. With this in mind, Thor slowly conceived a plan, a farming and breeding plan. Of course, this kind of dirty and tiring work cannot be done by oneself. According to bloodline memory, the dog-headed people are loyal servants of their own dragon tribe. This is the instinctive obedience and loyalty ingrained in the bloodline genes of the dog-headed person. After brainstorming a rough plan, Saul began to explore this cave. According to my own plan, it's better to farm underground. Because it is sufficiently concealed and secure, it will not be detected by anyone. What I currently need the most is time. Find a safe enough time at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Stretching his muscles and wings, Thor relied on his extraordinary sense of smell and did not smell any dangerous creatures near him. Relying on the cushions under his limbs, Thor restrained his breath and silently walked towards the top. There seems to be a faint sound of water flowing below the cave, which also indicates a high possibility of underground farming. The overall trend of the karst cave is inclined downwards, while I am located in the lower middle. The diameter of the cave is about 1 or 2 meters, with larger areas exceeding 2 meters and narrower areas exceeding 1 meter. Fortunately, my body is not very large. Slowly climb upwards, surrounded by many small branching channels. But Thor remained unmoved, and his top priority was to find his servant, the Doghead. The diameter of the upward opening is larger, and the surrounding space is also larger. And I also vaguely smelled the smell of warcraft. By relying on their scent and bloodline memories, they told themselves that there was a group of mountain wolf packs at the entrance of the cave, with a strength of about 15 or 16 at the average level. Even the vivid image from bloodline memories instantly stands in my mind. The mountain wolf, a hunter who is often active in the mountains and forests, is often mistaken for a wild dog due to its gray appearance and simple face. After squeezing through a suddenly narrow place, Thor saw the mountain wolf in front of him, roaring and uneasy in a low voice. After all, when I squeezed in, there was indeed a lot of noise. Looking at these mountain wolves that were almost unable to break through even their attacks, Thor thought to himself that subduing them was not a good choice. Later, Thor also stood up proudly and said in dragon language, "Wolf cubs, kneel down and submit to me, and I will." Chapter 2. Sleep. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Sleep. Just as Thor was focusing his attention on the lush green forest and mysterious world outside, a large mountain wolf suddenly became difficult from behind and rushed towards him to bite. In an instant, Saul felt very confused, and then he fell into darkness, his body knocked to the ground. And with a lightning-fast speed, the surrounding mountain wolves rushed forward, crazily biting their limbs, tail, and body. Thor was immediately engulfed in a strong wave of anger and tyranny, as he pulled his head out of the large mountain wolf's mouth. Taking advantage of its lack of reaction, it bit into its throat. The strong bite force and huge gap in strength instantly shattered the throat bone of the mountain wolf. After a mournful cry, he fell to the ground and couldn't get up. And the blood of the mountain wolf flows through its mouth into its throat and into its stomach. A sense of inexplicable pleasure and excitement drove me crazy, constantly launching retaliatory attacks against other mountain wolves. In less than a moment, the mountain wolves in this cave lay neatly here. Looking at the corpses of these mountain wolves, Thor didn't mind either. After all, he was already a dragon, so why did he still hold on to the same mindset as before? After dealing with these mountain wolves for a while, Thor was also slightly afraid. I was also too arrogant and lacked experience in the first battle. Lions fight rabbits with all their might. It seems that I am still too floating after becoming a dragon. This mentality is not right, it needs to be changed. Then use the divine fragments to start absorbing the surrounding vitality and energy to soothe your muscles. Although they won't break the defense, these wolves do bite and it really hurts. Be cautious with your sense of smell and your vision to carefully investigate the surroundings. For a moment, I didn't smell any monsters beyond the elite level. This represents safety. And through the perception of divine fragments, it seems that the nearby magic content is not very high. Thor pondered at the most powerful warcraft a region can carry is directly related to its level of magic. In the juvenile stage of dragons, it is necessary to absorb magic to nurture magical organs, so that dragon breath can be used. If the magic level in my area is not enough, I still have to move towards the depths of the forest. Shaking my head, I didn't think so much for now. I just broke my shell and need to first search for a large amount of meat and reserve a large amount of meat. Entering the juvenile stage requires a large amount of meat for rapid development. After thinking about the terrifying hunger when he just broke his shell, Thor swore never to feel this feeling again in his life. Carefully patrolled the area for about 4 or 5 kilometers. Thor discovered that although the surrounding forests were dense, there were many flora and fauna. But their strength is relatively not particularly strong. There are a population of 7 or 8 elite-level thorn wild boars, elite and advanced colorful tigers, goblins everywhere, and swarms of warcraft ants. Wait. But I just didn't see the dog-headed race. I searched for 3 or 4 days, ate a lot of warcraft, and killed a lot of goblins, but still didn't find anything. Thor lazily lay on the branch of a large tree that could only be embraced by 6 or 7 people, and looked pitifully at the cautious warcraft in a nearby pool with lost interest. Subsequently, Thor did not hesitate to burrow into the tree hole he had dug and began his first dormant evolution. That's right, Saul doesn't plan to look anymore, at least not for now. These days, I have been frantically hunting around the cave for 4 or 5 kilometers and eating a lot of warcraft. Moreover, if one is only at the elite level and dares to wander around, they are not afraid of how to die. Why do I only explore the vicinity for 4 or 5 kilometers? That's because from 4 or 5 kilometers away, in every direction, I feel an extraordinary aura, and these auras are only strong and not weak. Scared, I immediately shrunk inside the tree hole. As for why not hide in the cave? Isn't that pure foolishness? The typical kind of knocking the door and hitting the dog, unable to run out. As Thor fell into hibernation, more than 10 kilometers east of the tree cave where Thor was located. In the cave, the chieftain of the Doghead looked eagerly at their witches, who were the wizards, guides, and think tanks of the tribe. The old dog-headed person looked at the big and small dog-headed people in the cave and couldn't help but sigh. Is that goblin tribe still unwilling to let us go? The chieftain Wen's burly body was very reserved in front of the witch. Wu, they want us to submit to them, obey their commands, drive them away, and provide a certain amount of iron weapons every month. Otherwise, we will send the goblin army to destroy our Doghead tribe. And our hunting team was also severely injured by them. Wu Bu's wrinkled face was filled with disdain and he said, "It seems that this goblin tribe has given birth to wizards. Otherwise, with their intelligence, it would not have been possible to do such a complex thing for them." Find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Setting aside morality and ethics, a wise person may not necessarily be a magician, but a magician must be a wise person. It is obvious that relying solely on the wisdom of King Goblin will not yield to the actions of his subordinates. They will take a more direct step to the stomach and eat it directly. What is the strength of their population? At this moment, Chieftain Wen, who was as strong as a cow, also shook his head helplessly. Their tribe consists of dozens of advanced and extraordinary goblins, with hundreds of extraordinary powers. Our ethnic group consists of only a small group of over 30 people, who are extraordinary and advanced. There are only two of us, Wu Yu and I, and Wu Yu are still relatively old. Even the muscular chieftain of the Taoran in his mind understands that now, there is no other way but to submit to those lowly goblins. As for the alliance resistance, there was a medium-sized tribe of jackals and werewolves around, but unfortunately they were defeated early on. On the other side of the goblin tribe, there is actually a troll tribe, but unfortunately, the goblin team that attacked their hunting team also had trolls. Even further away, that is the living area of other Warcraft races. Wu put away his disdainful expression and sighed, "Yes. I really don't understand why a maggot-like creature like goblin can also give birth to a mage. Is a mage a symbol of wisdom? Did the god of wisdom favor goblin? I'm not willing to accept it. Give me another 100 years, no, 50 years, no 30 years. I can break free from the extraordinary cage and step into the master's threshold. I am a master-level dog-headed person, and I will be recorded in the history of dog-headed people. The old Doghead looked puzzled and murmured to himself. Chapter 3. Awakening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Awakening. Inside the tree hole, a double-jawed creature covered in green with teeth and a raised crown, as a law-abiding evil, all prove their combative nature. The highly curved lower jaw contour and the crown that starts near the eyes and extends downwards through most of the dragon's spine. The crown reaches its full height behind the neck of the skull. Green Dragon has no external ears, only ear holes and leather plates extending downwards along the neck, with small corners at the edges of each plate. This type of dragon also has small horns on its eyebrows and chin. The nostrils are located high above the nose, and when closed, the teeth protrude. This type of dragon has a slender forked tongue and emits a stimulating odor of chlorine. The scales of the juvenile green dragon are thin and very small, with a dark green color that looks almost black. As the dragon matures, its scales become larger and brighter, turning into the colors of forest, jade, and olive green, which helps it blend into its woody environment. And now Thor's body size has gradually soared to the level of 3 to 4 meters, but his whole body is thin and bony, very pitiful. Opening his vertical pupils, Thor looked at his burly body with satisfaction. In childhood, one begins to prepare for the development of magical organs, located approximately near the heart. In youth, with magical organs, one can breathe dragon breath and cause terrifying damage. And there is good news from the Divine Fragments that one can use the vitality collected from the Divine Fragments to forcefully use magical organs and spit out dragon breath. According to the vitality of the Divine Fragment Reserve, I have 3 opportunities to breathe dragon breath. Seeing this, Solna feels even more at ease. Breath out, that's something even a master wouldn't dare to forcefully accept, let alone the extraordinary monsters near him. That's definitely vomiting one, that's dying one. Turning to look at the distribution of moss in the tree hole, comparing it with the distribution before I fell asleep, I can preliminarily determine that I slept for about 5 days. Subsequently, Saul didn't want anything else because he was hungry. Watching the tiger leisurely drinking water by the pool, Thor also made a trembling dive from a high position. A tiger with elite and advanced skills died in an instant in front of him, and then he ate it happily. This tiger weighs about 500 kilograms. After removing its internal organs and so on, it finally feels a bit full. Subsequently, Thor also crazily began hunting the nearby Warcraft tribe. 7 or 8 elite and advanced bramble wild boar populations. Well, it feels good to eat, but it's not that refreshing. A sophisticated human-faced spider. Well, it tastes like eating ice cream. It just looks disgusting, but it tastes pretty good. At noon, within 5 or 6 kilometers near Thor, Warcraft was almost completely empty, without even a regular level Warcraft. Lying on the top of the tree crown, he touched his slightly full belly, and Saul also took a precious sunbathe for a while. After all, the forests are stacked layer by layer, and there is almost no sunlight falling on the ground floor. Then, Saul also flapped his wings and began searching around for the trail of the dog-headed man. East, south, west, north. In 4 directions, the north will enter the depths of the forest, and Saul will not easily step on it. At least he will not enter until he reaches his youth. Choosing a random east side, Thor began to get close to the tree crown and began to slow down with a restrained breath. It seems that restraining one's breath has become Thor's instinct. As he flew, he thought to himself that he had never openly released Long Way. Just like this, there are various strange things that come to mind, one after another. About 10 kilometers away, Thor saw a goblin team of about 30 people in an instant through the dense canopy of trees. To Thor's surprise, there were 7 or 8 armored members in the goblin team, as well as a strange combination of trolls, jackals, and dogheads. Judgya, for the monsters, that's a fantasy. And in my own inheritance memory, I learned that goblin is not an extremely chaotic and disorderly creature. Why, they are still walking together in an orderly manner. And are there other races in the team? For goblin, isn't other races just food? When will goblin let the food jump and walk alongside them? Strange. Very strange. Adhering to the principle of caution and boldness, Thor quickly approached, and because he was a green dragon and surrounded by forests, it was completely his home ground. In addition, with the intention of hiding their breath and traces, these goblins were even more unable to discover themselves. So, Saul followed for about half a day and arrived at a small open space not far from his birth cave. After following for so long, I realized that these goblins seemed to be looking for something. Thinking about goblins in the team, is it searching for mineral veins? At this moment, the sky is also falling into dusk. There is no light in the forest, it's pitch black and terrifying. Although I can easily defeat this team, the most powerful and extraordinary junior goblin team. But I have to figure out the causes and consequences, the overall level of the goblin tribe, and so on. There is no risk. Finding a book garden. www.zhaosuiyuan.com is what one pursues. In the latter half of the night, taking advantage of the extremely lax guard, I also successfully took out a dog-headed man. Come to your own tree hole and watch the trembling dog-headed man. At this point, Thor needs to pretend to be 13, otherwise it's not easy to deceive. The trembling dog-headed man, after seeing the dragon behind the scenes, also had a trembling expression and immediately knelt to the ground, muttering a bunch of dog-headed language. Thor also spoke in dragon language with an extremely proud tone, condescending, "Servant, I am the great lord of the true dragon. Praise me for being an ant." Looking at the dog-headed man who still knelt devoutly, Thor was slightly puzzled. According to my bloodline memory, why doesn't it seem to work? Then he flipped through his bloodline memory and searched for the reason. In a moment, Saul knew the reason. Dogheads with low strength cannot understand dragon language, only elite-level dogheads have the ability to communicate. And the one in front of me seems to be at an ordinary level, even at an ordinary beginner level. Really then, through bloodline memory, Thor found a compromise solution. Dragons can use their own blood, hard work, and transform their relatives. But all of these require magic to assist, so the dependents are usually cultivated by young dragons. But at this moment, the Divine Fragment tells itself that by utilizing a large amount of vitality, it is also possible to complete the transformation of family members. But looking at this dog-headed man in front of me, whose strength is not even elite, it is impossible for me to use precious vitality to transform him into a dependent. It is too wasteful. But you can let this dog-headed person directly take your own blood to enhance the part of your blood that belongs to the dragon. Isn't that enough? Chapter 4. Doghead Talent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Doghead Talent. Subsequently, control the muscles and force a drop of blood from the end of the forelimb. Then, 1% of the blood is separated and integrated into the body of the dog-headed person. Otherwise, I feel like just a drop of blood will directly crush and explode this ordinary junior dog-headed person. In a moment, the dog-headed man began to howl in pain. Fortunately, my tree hole is at least 2 to 3 kilometers away from Goblin's team. Passing it over, although there is still a sound, it will definitely not attract attention. After all, in this dark night, it would be too strange if there were no monsters howling. After the dog-headed man finished howling, Saul repeated the previous step. Watching the dog-headed man howl and pant heavily, Thor couldn't help but praise his actions just now. Repeat the previous step for the third time. Then the strength of this dog-headed person went from ordinary beginner to ordinary intermediate. After all the drops of blood were absorbed by this dog-headed person in batches, their strength also reached the elite level. The dog-headed man, who was originally only 1 meter tall and extremely thin, is now 1.78 meters tall and looks very strong. His erect pupils indicate his dragon-like characteristics. If nothing unexpected happens, this dog-headed person will have elite and advanced strength in this lifetime. After the dog-headed person got up, he also looked at himself extremely respectfully and said in dragon language, "Master, I am your loyal servant, material." Thor looked at the work he had created with great satisfaction. Then he began to ask the goblin what was going on, and the existence of the Doghead clan. After obtaining what he wanted, Thor began to think about ways to break the deadlock. This super-large goblin tribe has gathered at least 30,000 to 40,000 goblins, enough to form a small-scale animal tide. And it also gave birth to wise people like magicians, which is even more tricky. Moreover, according to the inheritance memory, the probability of goblin rebelling against the devourer is quite high, and it is not suitable for cultivation as a dependent. Anyway, there are no reliable dog-headed people. According to the inheritance memory, it is said that the first generation of the god of the dog-headed people was supported by the kind dragon god Bahamut and the evil dragon mother Tiamat. As for what the inside story is, I don't know. As a price, with the help of 2 dragon gods, the god of the dog-headed humans implanted loyalty with divine power in the dog-headed human race, and as a relative, awakened the bloodline memory belonging to the dog-headed human race. Although the god of the dog-headed man fell later, this loyalty has been passed down from generation to generation. Saul looked at the dog-headed man in front of him who seemed to have a wise gaze and couldn't help but ask, "Who is the most powerful dog-headed man in your tribe?" The dragon blood dog-head talent also immediately replied, "Master, it's a wizard. He's a wizard and wise person from our dog-head tribe, with extraordinary and advanced existence. It is said that he once traveled to the mainland in his early years, but in the end, he was forced to flee to the forest cloud forbidden area because he offended some human officials and nobles. In the early days, some followers of the witches within the tribe followed the witches to survive here. Unfortunately, there are many powerful demon groups in the forest cloud forbidden area, and we, the Doghead, do not have an advantage here. At most, it also survives in the outer and inner areas." Thor keenly grasped a problem. Is this the forest cloud forbidden area? The dog-headed man still replied faithfully, yes. After hearing the dog-headed man's affirmative answer, Saul also felt a wave of fear and happiness. I'm afraid that this is actually a forest cloud forbidden area. According to my own bloodline memory, it is said that this place was once sealed with a semi-divine high-level divine sin. Terrifying as it is, although there is no specific explanation of what divine sin it is also terrifying as it is. But on second thought, this could also be a good place. As long as the seal is properly sealed, then we will be safe and sound. Moreover, this also blocks the desire of the vast majority of humans to explore. Because I learned through my bloodline memory that when a divine sin was sealed, I cursed with my remaining strength, cursing that humans would never be able to set foot in this place. So, every once in a while, there will be mages from other races here to reinforce the seal. So, this forest cloud forbidden area can be transformed into a unique base for oneself. It's simply delightful. So now we need to make a vague plan. Will Goblin submit to himself? Maybe, but I don't really want it. Although the dog-headed person may seem a bit ugly, after being optimized with dragon blood, they are still barely strong. That goblin is really all sorts of, so eliminate them. Eliminate them. Although I am confident that I am invincible, the goblin tribe has too many extraordinary abilities, which can only be said to be worthy of the forest cloud forbidden area. Goblins from other regions may not even reach the level of ordinary beginners. In case of a car crash or injury, one may have to load their own bloodline memory as a negative lesson. So I need help myself. Firstly, you can go to the Guru tribe to see if you can use dragon blood to help the old Guru improve his level. Then go to the nearby Warcraft clan to see if you can persuade them to submit to you. After sorting out the general idea, Thor looked at the dog-headed man in front of him who was extremely respectful and said, "Take the way, find the book garden www.zhaozuan.com to go to the dog-headed man tribe." As for the consequences of the goblin team discovering that this dog-headed man was missing, it was not in their own consideration. Perhaps Goblin's team leader will be furious and may punish the remaining few dog-headed men, but this is not in his own consideration. Taking advantage of the darkness, I grabbed the dog-headed man and flew at lightning speed in the sky. The pleasure of soaring in the blue sky made Thor unable to stop, almost like a thunderous fighter jet. In less than half an hour, I relied on the guidance of a dog-headed talent and arrived near a huge cave in the south. The dog-headed talent knelt down on the ground and said, "Master, do you need me to gather my fellow countrymen to come and pay homage to you, Master?" Although Thor really wanted to say yes, he still adhered to a low-key approach and said, "No need, we will still act in a low-key manner." Although I hadn't arrived at the cave yet, I could smell that smell from a long distance, which was really annoying. But for the sake of planning, Saul also endured discomfort and walked into the cave. Before fully entering the cave, an elderly dog-headed man walked to the entrance of the cave. Looking at its wrinkles, judging from the knowledge of bloodline memory, this dog-headed person still has a maximum lifespan of 2 to 3 years. The old dog-head walked trembling to himself and knelt down in dragon language, saying, "Respected Lord of the Forest, you have come all the way, and we do not know that it is our fault." Seeing this old boy so up to the point, Thor could only secretly admire him. He truly deserves to be the leader of the world. Then he spoke extremely arrogantly in dragon language, "You lowly servants, I see you are being ruled by goblins like ants, you are so useless. Fortunately, your master Thor has come to save you." Chapter 5. Conversion of Family Members. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Conversion of Family Members. The old dog-headed man kneeling on the ground thought to himself that he had felt the palpitations from his bloodline from afar, not to mention that when he was young, he had also encountered dragons. After listening to Saul's words, I saw the dragon-blooded dog-headed man next to this little green dragon. Suddenly, the old dog-head thought to himself, "Oh, have you met the kind-hearted dragon? Surprisingly willing to sacrifice dragon blood, this is unbelievable." With a purr of his cloudy eyes, he immediately began to cry with a smile, "Master, we don't want to bow down to that lowly goblin either. Even though goblins have weak racial advantages, their extraordinary numbers are too many, to an outrageous extent, to the point of crushing us. So, I seriously suspect that they have found a magic stone vein. First, share your speculation about the extraordinary power of the goblin tribe, and then see how this young dragon handles it and how its quality is." Although Thor appeared calm on the surface, his heart was already filled with serious joy. This is the magic stone vein. With the vein, whether it is cultivating relatives or trading resources with humans, one can make a steady profit without losing. Okay, I have another unforgivable reason for goblin. The old dog-headed man kneeling on the ground saw Thor's slightly undulating dragon scales and an expressionless expression on his face. Through these subtle details, the old dog couldn't help but feel happy in his heart. Although the young dragon seemed indifferent on the surface, he was definitely overjoyed in his heart. The old dog-head felt that it was definitely the goddess of luck who had visited him. The path to the master has once again been opened up. This time, I must seize the opportunity. It's not like the last time when I was young, when I was in a hot-tempered red dragon nest and served as the chief steward. As a result, she was stepped upon by a despicable and treacherous female night elf. And he was also forced to expel the red dragon's lair. But heaven never dies, my dog-head. Unexpectedly, just as he was about to die, a young green dragon appeared in front of him. Humph, the hot-tempered red dragon has served him well by himself. Not to mention this little green dragon, hold it. My observations over the years can be said to be impeccable. Otherwise, it would also be impossible to become a general manager in the monster-infested red dragon nest. In addition, this little green dragon surprisingly transformed an ordinary dog-headed person into a dragon blood dog-headed person, which proves that this green dragon is not the kind of miser. Compared to other dragons, he is still considered a generous one. Otherwise, with their ability to collect resources, they would never be able to support so many extraordinary goblins. Upon hearing this, Thor was slightly surprised. He didn't expect this old dog-head to be able to think and reason to this point. It's not bad. Thor continued in a haughty tone, "So my servant, do you think that with our strength, we can eliminate this goblin tribe?" The old dog-head was slightly surprised. Five-colored dragon, when will he listen to others' opinions? Although surprised, the old dog-headed witch replied with extreme flattery, "I believe that with the strength of the master and our loyal servants, we can definitely eliminate these dirty goblins." Glancing at the old dog-head, Saul didn't realize that this old man is so good at flattering. Thor is still a bit rational, after all. He is still in his childhood and only an extraordinary and invincible hand, but not invincible and extraordinary. Thor continued, "It's not appropriate. With our strength, we're not enough to firmly capture the goblin tribe." The old dog's head rolled his eyes and said with a slightly guilty expression, "Master, it's a pity that as I get older, my physical abilities and combat power have declined, and I can't continue to fight on the battlefield for my master. But with my servant's body, I can still replace 3 or 4 extraordinary goblins." The old dog-head, who was kneeling on the ground, thought to himself that if it were a kind green dragon, he would now offer dragon blood to help himself. And with the help of dragon blood, one can temporarily suspend their life and restore most of their physical functions. My own master dream is not a problem either. After this young green dragon enters its youth, it is still possible to work hard and lick a quota for converting dragon blood into family members. As for the hard work, I dare not even think about it. Watching this old dog-headed person cry with a sound of genuine emotion, Thor couldn't help but sigh. The dog-head man is truly a loyal servant of the dragon clan. I didn't officially declare them as my servants, but now they all call themselves servants. That's really cool. After thinking about it, it is important for me to quickly transform the old dog-head in front of me into my own family. After all, the process of transforming family members comes with that kind of loyalty contract. As long as you become your own family member, you can control your life and death with just one thought. Subsequently, Saul restrained his haughty expression slightly and said with a slightly serious tone, "Take me to a hidden place in your cave." The old dog leader also stood up immediately, and his nimble movements showed no sign that he was the old dog leader. Subsequently, the old dog-headed people also used dog-headed language to name the dog-headed people in the tribe without being loud or shouting, and so on. After Saul entered the cave, he saw dog-headed people kneeling on the ground everywhere. Suddenly, Thor had a feeling of an emperor approaching the court. "Follow the old dog leader into the depths of the cave." Thor said, "Later, I will transform you into my relative. Your strength may break through. Do you have any way to cover it up?" And the old dog leader was also extremely confused. Did he hear it wrong? Convert family members. Isn't this the ability of the youth dragon? If you're not mistaken, it seems like the Thor in front of you at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com is still a young dragon, right? Looking at the old dog head who was stunned and lost in place, Thor impatiently said, "Since you're not prepared, go and prepare something to block the breath. You just need to know, I have a special method. I guarantee in the name of Lord Bahamut Dragon that you will definitely become my vassal." And the old dog head was instantly surrounded by a huge surprise. "Really? My adoptive father?" Then the old dog-headed man hurriedly ran out of the cave, even using the traces of lightness magic. About half an hour later, the old dog leader also set up the scene. "Master, if my strength breaks through later, it will definitely not leak my information." Looking at the eager old dog leader, Saul nodded with great satisfaction. Subsequently, he called out the divine fragments and forced out a drop of hard work, summoning a vitality energy. And according to the memories in their own minds, the divine fragments began to arrange the ritual of family transformation. After all, Shenj, that's a super large processor. Isn't it too much to ask him to set up a family transformation ceremony himself? Seeing that drop of extremely bright golden blood, the old dog head almost trembled to the point of difficulty breathing. What is that? That's the dragon's hard work. Dragon, an extremely selfish creature. The old dog leader was first overjoyed, then his face suddenly turned white, and finally accepted everything with resignation. Unexpectedly, this green dragon has such a unique taste that it has taken a liking to itself. But for the sake of strength, I have to. Chapter 6. Blood Dependence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Blood Dependence. In the pitch-black cave, an old dog-headed man was trembling and kneeling in front of a young green dragon. After preparation, Thor immediately communicated with the divine fragments to begin the ceremony. In an instant, a mysterious pentagram formation flew out of both the old dog-headed wizard and himself, overlapping and interweaving, merging into one, forming a larger pentagram formation. The concentration of magic around slowly surged up, and vitality began to become stronger. And under the control of the divine fragments, my golden efforts and vitality slowly merged into the old dog's body. And the old dog-headed wizard also felt his body warm and a drowsiness surged in his heart. I was extremely surprised to see the old dog head slowly being transformed by his own hard work and vitality while sleeping. At this moment, the wrinkles all over the old dog head are slowly dissipating, and the aging aura is also slowly disappearing. Instead, it is a strong vitality emanating from the inside out and a gradually increasing force. Looking at himself with only a glimmer of vitality left, Thor felt it was also worth it. 3 Vitality gives oneself the opportunity to breathe 3 dragon breaths. That is to use the power of vitality to forcibly use one's magical organs, and then restore them with the power of vitality. 3 vitality powers, I have already used them twice. One time is used for the conversion of the family members of the dog-head witch in front of me, and the other time is used for the recovery after taking out my own hard work. I am still a young dragon, taking out a drop of hard work, the cost is still too heavy. Not only will it seriously affect one's own development, but it will also cause a loss of one's own heritage. Without the need for vitality to recover, it can be said that one's own dragon life has been destroyed. As the ceremony progressed, the old dog-headed man gradually became younger, his wrinkles disappeared, and his disappeared muscles bulged again. Moreover, the old dog-headed witch also began to grow dense gray-green dragon scales on its body, and a dragon tail began to grow on its tail, with a pair of wings growing under its ribs. Without a doubt, this is the ability of one's own hard work. Only with one's own hard work can one achieve such a high degree of witchcraft and dragon-like transformation of the dog-headed person. Moreover, because it is a family member transformed from one's own hard work, the doghead witch not only greatly increases its potential, but also gains high affinity for wooden magic and can release some dragon language magic. And because of his own hard work, the doghead witch can also obtain the inheritance of dragon language magic from the dragon clan's bloodline and memory. This is hard work. It can be said that with just one drop of his hard work, Guduranwu has already qualified to enter the legend. Of course, he was no longer a purebred dog-headed person due to the dragon-like transformation of his bloodline. Of course, the most important thing is that I can clearly feel a sense of control that is gradually increasing in the dog-headed witch. Then, the forces belonging to the dragon bloodline continued to exert their strength. The body of the dog-headed witch also skyrocketed from the initial 1.56 meters to over 2 meters, even reaching 2.56 meters. The power that belongs to vitality is the violent bloodline power of step-by-step and dragon's hard work. When the doghead witch stopped changing, his aura also stopped at the master level. Watching the soaring power of the doghead witch, Thor couldn't help but feel that the bloodline of the dragon clan is still powerful. This is the power that belongs to the dragon bloodline in my own painstaking efforts, transforming the doghead witch, which is why the doghead witch is promoted to a master. Setting aside the bloodline, it is absolutely impossible for the doghead witch to undergo such a transformation of heaven and earth solely with his extraordinary level of blood. The power of the dragon bloodline is truly unparalleled. The old dog-headed wizard, who slowly woke up, also realized everything about himself and immediately knelt devoutly in front of Thor. Master, from now on, you will be my only master. I swear under the gaze of the platinum dragon god, His Majesty Bahamut, that the only master of my life, the doghead witch, is Thor. If you violate this oath and do not enter the kingdom of gods, you will fall into the Styx River forever. Looking at the dog-headed witch in front of him, who seemed to be eager to take a vow of rebirth, Thor was also relieved and did not waste his hard work in cultivating him. After a moment of contemplation, Thor continued, "Since you have been reborn, then you can call yourself Nexus from now on." The dog-headed witch was also overjoyed. "Thank you very much for giving me your name, Master." Subsequently, it also entered the main topic. "Nicers, with your current strength, do you think you can destroy the entire goblin tribe?" After digesting the memory of inheritance, Nicers did not answer Thor's question, but instead anxiously asked, "Master, you are still in your childhood and have expended a lot of effort. Isn't it not like? Don't worry, I have my own way of dealing with this sequela and won't leave any problems." Saul comforted Nathan. Upon hearing this, Nathan wanted to say something more, but in the end he answered the question honestly. "Master, with my current strength, there is no problem in annihilating the entire goblin tribe. But what I'm worried about is that after we've destroyed the goblin tribe, we won't be able to protect that magic stone vein." Upon hearing this, Saul couldn't help but laugh. "You are a master intermediate dragon-blooded dog-headed person, and you can even fight some weaker master advanced on the Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Can you tell me that you can't hold on to a magic stone vein? Master, after receiving your bloodline memories in dragon blood, I learned that goblins, a race despised by the gods." Nesius knelt down and continued in a clear and organized manner, "To give birth to a wizard like this, one must either live on the magic stone veins for a long time, passively, for a long time, and accept the baptism of magic passively. Only then can a magician be born. There is another way, and that is, God bestows power. Upon hearing this, Sultan was greatly shocked. God. The only one who can be considered a god in this forest cloud forbidden area is that divine sin. It is not surprising that Nicerus gained his own hard work and a large amount of memory inheritance. As for what he knows more than himself, it's not surprising. He is at least a master-level spiritual power, and he receives more information. Saul lowered his voice. Are you saying that behind this goblin tribe, there is the shadow of that sin? Nicerus shook his head and sighed, I don't know either. But most likely, it's like this. Saul didn't know what to do for a moment. But what Thor knows is that God, only God can fight against it. And the only god that comes to mind is the kind platinum god Bahamut. But, do you want to tell it yourself? In the bloodline memory, there is a way of praying for the platinum dragon god Bahamut. But I came through time travel. Still occupying a dead egg, it really made Thor hesitate. Chapter 7. Planning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Plan. Does this make Saul very anxious and difficult to handle? Looking at Nexus kneeling motionless on the ground, Thor instructed, you still need to pacify your tribe and not leak any information. Upon hearing this, Nicerus also stood up and used his transformation technique to transform himself into the old dog-headed man who was drooping and walking with a crutch. Master, I will have my son come to guard you. If you have any instructions, just let me know. After speaking, he slowly withdrew from this cave. Fortunately, the depths of this cave store all the minerals of the Doghead tribe and do not have such a strong odor. Can Saul continue to have the energy to think about what to do next? How should I go next? This must have a rough idea and a clear idea. Can't bump around like a headless fly. Firstly, the idea of farming oneself should continue. The dog-headed man has also been found. As for whether it is extravagant to cultivate family members with painstaking efforts. Having no one to rely on, one can only put in a lot of effort to cultivate their loved ones and enjoy early. But now we are facing the challenge of the goblin tribe. Unexpectedly, the simple goblin tribe was implicated behind the scenes by the big boss of the forest cloud forbidden area. Shin and I. This is extremely tricky. I am not sure how powerful the divine power behind this goblin tribe is. Hastily attacking, not to mention that Nexus is a master intermediate, even if Nexus is a legend, Thor feels like falling into it won't even cause a splash. This is definitely the ultimate pit. As for how many ultimate pits like the goblin tribe exist in the forest cloud forbidden area, Thor won't comment much. As for why no one noticed, that might be even more interesting. Is there a conflict between various forces, or is there Lao Lu or the infernal affairs? After understanding these things, Thor knew that this magic stone vein was not enough for him to compete with his life. Can I borrow the power of Bahamut, the platinum god of Lenovo, to quell the hidden divine power in this goblin tribe? But after careful consideration, Thor still gave up. Entering this world as an outsider. I don't know what the attitude of the gods is, whether it's good or bad. Or is it indifferent to neutrality? Can I use my life to guarantee the kindness of the platinum god Bahamut? Kindness does not mean he is not cruel. Under the magnificent throne, there are countless skeletons. Kindness is kindness to teammates and friends. There is no deity who has climbed onto the throne with a pile of corpses. Not kindness towards the enemy. Any deity is composed of factions. I dare not gamble, nor am I willing to gamble. Also unwilling to try gambling. Will he not detest his identity as a traveler to bet on? Will he bet that he won't have any thoughts on his own divine fragment? This divine fragment of oneself is the one of Dao Sheng Yi. With this one, it is possible to find or recreate a brand new vitality deity. The risks here are even more dangerous than those hidden behind the goblin tribe. So, I can only run. Oh no, it was forced to transfer. After some thought, Saul felt a little discouraged. But I absolutely can't just leave it that simple. Afraid of leaving this cave, one would see an exceptionally burly dog-headed man standing at the entrance, and this dog-headed man was also covered in armor, with extraordinary and advanced strength. At the moment he saw himself, the burly dog-headed man knelt down on both knees and said devoutly, "Master. It's not easy." Among a group of generally thin and weak dog-headed people with worrying strength, this physique and strength should not be the leader of this dog-headed tribe, right? This dog-headed person and that old dog-headed person Nisa's are not easy either. This little 9-9. This little abacus. Thor also showed no signs of abnormality and remained aloof, saying in dragon language, "Go and call Nexus over." Then Saul turned around and entered the cave. A moment Nisa's walked into the cave with a drooping old posture and knelt respectfully on the ground. "Master." Thor immediately explained his thoughts. "Since there is a divine intervention behind the goblin tribe, I think we need to leave here." The old dog leader did not refute, because he was well aware that as a servant, questioning the owner was the biggest mistake. So, the old dog-headed man Nisaer said, "Yes, my master." Subsequently, Thor continued to inquire, "Are there any warcraft around here who are willing to follow me? I am willing to give my blood and transform it into my family." The old dog-headed man Nisaers was also slightly surprised, and it was indeed a unique green dragon. "Master, there are 3 groups of warcraft around here, 12 powerful and solitary warcraft. And they are all at the master level." Thor continued to inquire, "So tell me, do any of these individual warcraft like to go back and forth?" Thinking of this, the cunning Nisaers guessed that Thor was going to send a ghost to test the goblin tribe. "But as a loyal servant, I definitely cannot say this plan myself, making the master feel useless. Surprisingly, my plan will still be guessed by subordinates. So, to speculate about his superiors, this is also the reason why the old dog leader lived to become the head of the great inner court in the crisis-ridden red dragon nest. Zhaoshuyuan.com. Dear Master, I think the Master Junior Angry Badger in the north is very suitable for you, but it hasn't been very active recently. But I believe that when the time comes, he will attack the goblin tribe with his strategy and good persuasion." Thor continued, "Just these few days, take my promise and go and win over those individual Warcraft clan. Tell them, these things, I can swear to the dragon god that I will never break my promise. Then, you figure out a way to have the furious badger attack the goblin tribe. If there were no divine hindrances, we would occupy this place. If it never comes back, then we'll leave here. Find a safe place again. Also, if those Warcraft individuals are willing to follow them but do not meet these conditions, they can talk to me again. But the premise of all of this is whether the angry badger can survive and leave the goblin tribe." "Obey my master," said the old dog leader Nessius respectfully, bowing his head subsequently. Thor silently calculated in his heart that when the situation with the goblin tribe came to an end, he should resettle his followers and dependents in one's own territory, start farming and hoarding assets, cultivate family members, and eat and drink quietly. Juvenile dragons usually need to live for 15 years to accumulate enough strength. Only then can one enter youth. From adolescence to adulthood, it takes a full 85 years to enter adulthood. From birth to adulthood, it takes a whole 100 years to grow into a legendary dragon that dominates the world. Chapter 8. Becoming a Joker. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Becoming a Joker. About 3 days later, in the morning, Thor was sleeping comfortably in the cave carefully prepared by the dog-headed man, and from time to time, the dog-headed man would even deliver his prey to his door. Is this the beautiful life of eating in the future? Feeling a strange change coming from the contract, it turned out that it was Nexus who had returned. "Master, I have already communicated with those master-level Warcraft, and most of them are also willing to submit to you. But the premise of all of this is that they need to meet with you, the Master, before making any further discussions." Thor said nonchalantly, "Then as soon as possible, let's set the time for tomorrow and the location by the small lake to the west. After speaking, Nexus, who was kneeling on the ground, immediately pinched the spell in his hand, and soon the notification was in place. At the master's stage, Warcraft has become as intelligent as an adult, and they all know some magic to some extent. After finishing these things, Nysar suddenly became suspicious and said, "Master, there is a Master's Advanced Blue Patterned Flame-Tailed Fox that wants to meet you in advance." He felt that ordinary conditions could no longer meet him. Immediately, after hesitating for a moment, Nysar gritted his teeth and said, "Master, when I was stuck in the extraordinary world before, I also visited His Highness the Blue Patterned Flame-Tailed Fox and sought his help. Although he couldn't help himself in the end, he was also the friendliest, most open-minded, and wisest Warcraft among the Master's circles within hundreds of kilometers." Thor impatiently fiddled with the dragon's claws, looking very hesitant. Finally, Saul nodded and said, "Promise him that the time will be set for this evening, and the location will still be that lake." After Nexus finished the interrogation, Saul immediately regretted it. "I am just an extraordinary level young green dragon. How dare you have the courage to negotiate terms with a Master's Advanced Blue Patterned Flame-Tailed Fox? Moreover, the Blue Patterned Flame-Tailed Fox has a decent bloodline and cannot be willing to transform into its own family. According to Pokémon, under normal circumstances, a dog-headed person like Nexus is a whiteboard elf and cannot become a god in his lifetime. But there were also abnormal situations, so the god of the dog-headed man was born. And those with decent bloodlines such as the blue-striped flame-tailed fox are the Imperial Three families, with high starting points and potential. There are many whiteboard elves like Nysars. And pure-blooded dragons are quasi-divine beings in Pokémon. This analogy may not be as accurate. Moreover, according to Nether's description, the blue-patterned flame-tailed fox not only makes friends but also rarely sets up enemies. In addition, with his master's advanced strength, he also holds a hegemonic position outside the forest cloud forbidden area. Why should I impress him? Do you take dragon blood? That blue-patterned flame-tailed fox probably didn't use dragon blood creatures as candy before. They haven't eaten any dragon blood creatures. I'm afraid there may be more dragon blood creatures than I've eaten these days. Dragon's heart blood. That's even more impossible. Only legendary or semi-divine level dragon painstaking efforts can move this bloodline blue-patterned flame-tailed fox. Damn it, I thought it was too simple and made another fatal mistake. Most likely, this trip was taken as a laughing stock. This forest cloud forbidden area is capable of becoming a regional hegemon. How could it be a creature under the bloodline of Nexus, or a simple character? If one cannot achieve invincibility at the same level, it is impossible to solidify the position and authority of a hegemon. Why is a hegemon called a hegemon? That means being invincible at the same level, then you are the hegemon. It's broken, it's broken, it's broken. I've become a clown myself. Also, the blue-patterned flame-tailed fox master is advanced and almost legendary. That's a legend. Legends are qualified to become the true top powers of this continent. As long as you become a legend and don't engage in rampant burning, killing, and looting, other forces will have to confess the legend. When the sea god like the demigod cannot release the needle, legend is the highest combat power walking in the plane. It's broken, I've really become a clown. If I were a young green dragon to talk about, there is still a glimmer of success, but in my childhood, it is simply a fantasy. But since everything is done now, I have to grit my teeth and take a look. At least shout slogans, wait until you are young to brush up your good feelings, and when you reach adulthood, take them under your command. With a little cultivation, he is once again a legendary warrior. It's delicious. Besides, how could I know if I couldn't even try it myself? What a tumultuous autumn. The issue with Goblin has not been resolved yet, but on the way to resolving it, another problem has arisen. It's really Sigh. There is no need to worry about your own life or death, after all, from the memory of your bloodline, it is known that at the moment you are born and recite your true name, the two dragon gods already know that another newborn has been born in the dragon clan. Although the dragon god did not cast a gaze, at least he was named after the two dragon gods. This is also because thousands of years ago, an event shocked all the dragon gods. At that time, the human empire vigorously hunted and killed the enslaved dragon race, especially the newly born dragon race. Although the records in the bloodline memory are not very clear, afterwards, humans fell several gods, and the dragon race also fell several gods. At that time, the fallen kingdom of gods swept across the sky, creating a spectacle for the creatures in the plain. At that time, it almost triggered a large-scale divine war, and finally reached an agreement with the two dragon gods and the noble gods of humans on the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com. All major races take this as a warning. Anyone with some bloodline memory and some wisdom generally will not kill the dragon clan. But what I'm afraid of is the kind of idiot who manages him around. Meanwhile, on the other side, that small lake. The blue patterned flame-tailed fox stands quietly in the center of the lake, surrounded by 6 masters with varying levels of strength. One of the Kuei cows used magic to transmit a message and said, "Do the dragons still dare to come? I feel like even a young dragon dares to make us submit to him, it doesn't even take us seriously." Another Warcraft also agreed, "I think it's better to drive back his tribe to avoid causing us trouble. After all, only young dragons can create family members." Another red-bellied cloud snake was spitting out a long message, teasing and whispering, "Give him a warning when the time comes." After these monsters finished chattering, the blue-patterned flame-tailed fox spoke slowly and said, "Enough." It is obvious that the blue-patterned flame-tailed fox has a high reputation. As soon as he spoke, the other Warcraft beasts quietly waited for him to speak. Whose detention area is that dragon? There has been a leak of divine power, why hasn't it been reported so far? Goblin has been nurtured to an extraordinary level. Do you still want to recreate the disasters of the past? Speaking of this, the blue-patterned flame-tailed fox spoke very harshly and with a faint sense of exhaustion. When it comes to disasters, fear is evident in the eyes of all the Warcraft present. Even the blue-patterned flame-tailed fox, recalling this matter, even with thick fur, felt a chill all over its body. Also, why didn't the angry badger come? Chapter 9. Transfer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Transfer. The other few Warcraft couldn't figure it out either. The red-bellied cloud snake spat out a long letter and said indifferently, "No matter how much he does, he's either fighting or on the way to fighting." After all, the red-bellied cloud snake and the angry badger have a predatory and prey relationship. If it doesn't start fighting, then the prestige of the blue-patterned flame-tailed fox is still great enough. The furry face of the blue-patterned flame-tailed fox remained expressionless. Since that's the case, let's follow the process and call the big shots from the Mage Council to handle this matter. Seeing no opposition from the crowd, the blue-striped flame-tailed fox also took out a connector from its fur and began using magic to communicate with the mages in the Mage Council. The Mage Council is a vast organization independent of the kingdom. As long as you successfully break through to the legend, regardless of your race, after identifying that you are not an evil creature, the Mage Council will issue an invitation. Generally speaking, mages who successfully advance to the legendary level will choose to join the Mage Council. If a mage does not choose to join the Mage Council, they will naturally choose to join the kingdom and become a less free court mage. And the Mage Council is also responsible for some of the security issues of the entire continent, and some of the secret realm resources are involved more. Without a doubt, the Mage Council is a behemoth. And Thor lay on the back of Nisus Loris, not yet close to the lake, when he saw the 7 huge figures from a long distance. When Nathelstan was in mid-air, he used a magical voice to ask Thor, "Master, when we saw them all, they had already discovered us." Unexpectedly, all 7 master-level monsters around here have arrived, except for the Fury Badger. I apologize for my poor survey information. Please punish me, Master. Thor said calmly, it's not your fault, Nexus. Undoubtedly, local Master-level Warcraft have their own circle. You were only an extraordinary and advanced person before, and you didn't have the qualifications to learn about these things. Let's go ahead and pay respects to them. As Thor and his companions approached, the other 7 beasts also saw Thor and his companions clearly. Young dragon. Young dragon. Unbelievable. This is impossible. But the scent on the dog-headed person is very clear. Surprisingly, this green dragon is still healthy, without any deficiency in chi and blood. As Thor arrived over the lake, he had close contact with 7 Master-level monsters. Feeling the pressure from the life level, Thor felt that it was not good. There is a feeling of slight difficulty breathing. Thor did not speak, nor did the 6 Warcraft speak, but the expression of surprise in his eyes could not be concealed. The first sentence spoken by the blue-patterned flame-tailed fox was, "How are you, a young dragon? How did your family come about?" "This is my secret," Thor replied in dragon language, neither humble nor overbearing. "Why, do you all want to explore the truth?" As soon as the words fell, the other few Warcraft also suddenly fell silent. Those who can grow from the bottom level of Warcraft to the current level are not fools. Young dragons, dependents, secrets. You don't have to think about it all. The green dragon in front of you must have something or treasure that doesn't belong to his stage. But do you dare to snatch it? Dragons, they all have ethnic groups. Even the 5-colored dragon is no exception. Hit the small one, come the old one. Hit the old one, come the older one. As for killing, I dare not kill even more. The blue-striped flame-tailed fox continued, "Do you still want us to submit to you?" Thor also gave a definite answer without hesitation. Of course. As soon as the words fell, almost all the Warcraft laughed. The red-bellied cloud snake spat out its message and said slightly disdainfully, "Little dragon, what are you trying to impress us with? Dragon blood. Among you present, which one is not a person with excellent bloodline?" Although other Warcraft did not agree, they all watched how this green dragon, with only extraordinary strength, answered. Dragon is qualified to negotiate terms with them. But now, there is no doubt that Thor does not have this qualification. Now they all play with this green dragon with a playful mindset, and it's been a long time since they've seen such arrogant young dragons. After this green dragon reaches adulthood, we can still discuss this idea. But with the rebellious personality of the dragon race, when they reach adulthood, they will no longer interact with the weak. The blue-patterned flame-tailed fox had no intention of continuing to play with the green dragon, but rather wanted to end this farce. Therefore, he said lightly, "Green dragon, go back. With your current strength, it is impossible to demand a Master-level Warcraft to bow down and submit." "Master, how could they bully their master like this? I wish I could kill each other right away," Nethers said in a slightly angry voice. Thor ignored the other Warcraft and, after calming Nexus, continued, "I haven't even stated my conditions yet, so you're just rejecting me like this." Watching the beasts gather their gaze, Thor continued, "I also know that it's not realistic for you to bow down and submit now. But you can choose to bow down and pay homage to my future. You know, when I reach adulthood, I may not even be able to take a liking to you. Then why don't you take advantage of my youth and invest in me? When I reach adulthood, not only will you faithfully serve me, but you will also receive a huge fortune." Before Thor could finish his conversation, Kuei Nyo interrupted, "Enough, don't use this kind of language to deceive us anymore. Find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Who wouldn't know that your green dragon is famous for its cunning and cruelty? Who knows if you will choose to fulfill your promise when you reach adulthood? After all, by the time you reach adulthood, we will no longer be your opponents." Thor exclaimed that something was wrong, forgetting that he was an evil green dragon. The green dragon is famous for its rebellious behavior and deceiving others, and it is also very famous in that way. It's broken. We need to quickly find a way to turn this situation around, otherwise all the previous efforts will be in vain. But I couldn't think of a way to turn things around for a long time. After seeing Thor's subtle action, the Warcraft present also burst into laughter. Look, I said this green dragon was deceiving us, right? They whispered to each other. The chicken feet of little Blackie Warcraft have leaked out. I almost fell in love with what I said just now. If I hadn't thought he was green dragon, I would have promised him. If he were a reputable metal dragon, we might have agreed to be loyal to him. Unfortunately, he is the 5-color dragon, and the green dragon with the worst reputation among the 5-colored dragons. Yeah. Stains. Saul was also extremely anxious. Could he have failed like this? Are you going to become a laughing stock? Although I couldn't hear their transmission, I could definitely imagine them mocking me. I also miscalculated and underestimated them. It's also my fault that I had such a smooth journey. There's no way, just treat it as a trap and gain wisdom. But suddenly, Saul came up with a solution. Chapter 10. Under the Crown of Ellock. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Saul suddenly came up with a solution. Contract. How about the contract? The blue-patterned flame-tailed fox remained expressionless, as if it had nothing to do with itself. The red-bellied cloud snake, on the other hand, is aimless and spits out messages without a trace. Kuei-nyo said in a muffled voice, who doesn't know, your green dragon is best at studying such strange things. Thor sighed, how could this green dragon senior make his reputation so bad? It's almost increased the difficulty several times. Suddenly, the blue-patterned flame-tailed fox spoke up and said, here we go. Thor asked in surprise, are you here? What are you here for? In an instant, a gate opened in the center of the lake. It's hard to describe how shocking it feels. Although Thor knew he could use magic in the future, the sudden emergence of this kind of space magic still gave Thor a huge surprise. In an instant, a middle-aged man wearing a golden gilded robe walked out from behind the door. The golden vertical pupils, luxurious temperament, and extraordinary appearance all complement this person's elegant and luxurious appearance. Strangely, this person's arrival made Thor feel an inexplicable sense of familiarity. The blue-patterned flame-tailed fox, on the other hand, was greatly shocked and said excitedly, under Ellock's crown, why did you come? With a smile from Ellock, everyone immediately felt like a spring breeze. I will thoroughly deal with the issue of the god's sins in this forest cloud forbidden area. The blue-patterned flame-tailed fox looked incredulous. Was it completely dealt with? If it were so easy to handle thoroughly, that would be right. Unfortunately, the manpower and resources involved are not worth it. Seeing this, Ellock looking down at him, Sultan panicked. You guys go take a walk outside, I want to have a few words with this friend alone. Although still feeling like a spring breeze, one can feel an irresistible scent. The blue flame-tailed fox and 7 other Warcraft, as well as Nexus, carefully and quickly left this place. Subsequently, Ellock looked down at Thor and smiled, saying, welcome to the Tifa interface. Upon hearing this, Saul became visibly panicked. And Ellock continued to soothe Thor, saying, don't worry, don't panic. When you enter that dead egg, your fate is closely related to the Tifa plane. Your reincarnation is seen by countless gods. But if you can receive recognition from the will of the plane, it means that the gods have recognized you. Thor had already stuttered a bit and said, agree. At this moment, although Ellock was speaking to himself with a cheerful expression, he couldn't help but feel nervous. Ellock smiled and said, it's that special divine fragment. It's you who made some kind of deal with the will of the plane. However, since the will of the plane can bestow upon you a vital deity, it means that he has recognized your identity. Don't worry, don't panic. This sentence seemed to have magical power and once again resolved Thor's tension. Do you have anything else you want to ask? Thor calmed his mood and sorted out his thoughts. Crown, can you tell me how I came to this world? After a moment of contemplation, Ellock said, "Back then, your soul carried a special crystal energy with a high energy level. Then you fly into the boundary wall and make a deal with the plane's will. The crystal energy on the body disappeared, and instead a special divine fragment appeared. As the guardian of the plane. The gods, I was also the first to notice this scene. They all cast their eyes, but under the crown of the supreme sun god, they issued an edict not allowing anyone or any deity to peep at you or harm you. Some people speculate that you are a strong opponent on other planes in Outland, but because of your injury, you have reincarnated to our Tifa plane. Some people also speculate that you are a reinforcement sent by the friendly plane. There are countless comments and so on. Next, Saul talked a lot and learned a lot with this crown prince. Next, let me temporarily borrow your divine fragments to completely solve the problem of the forest cloud forbidden area's divine sins. Don't worry, this matter has great benefits for your divine fragments." Before Thor could agree, with a wave of Ellock's arm, the shard of the divine spirit stood steadily in the palm of his hand. Strangely, the fragments of the divine spirit were borrowed, and Thor didn't feel any disappointment or anger. 3 days later, I'll give it back to you. By the way, here's another gift I gave you, I hope you like it. With a flip of the palm, a drop of golden and emerald blood slowly floated in the air. This is a drop of semi-divine level green dragon's hard work. I have removed all kinds of information and spirit from it. Only pure energy remains. After speaking, he slowly pushed this drop of blood into Thor's body. Before Thor could feel it, he was already unconscious. Watching Thor fall into a dormant sleep, Ellock sighed and muttered to himself, in about 500 years, the two worlds will completely merge. I really don't know, is it our Tifa plane winning or? Looking at Thor, Ellock murmured to himself, can you really lead the Tifa plane out of trouble? Is the god's prophecy really accurate? 3 days later, looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, Ellock recklessly wielded almost endless magic within his body, hooking up with the array anchor points set up in the past few days. Centered around this special divine fragment, it serves as the carrier of the formation. The overwhelming magical patterns are displayed in a way that is almost visible to the naked eye without restraint. The magical radiance that permeates the sky and earth almost shines on every corner of the forest cloud forbidden area. From a god's perspective, the entire forest cloud forbidden area is shrouded in a huge magical cage, and above this magical cage, an even larger magic formation rises. The magic lasted for a whole week. Looking at the blue patterned flame-tailed fox, Ellock's eyes were filled with uncontrollable fatigue, but he insisted, when Saul wakes up, return this divine fragment to him. Tell him that time is running out. The blue patterned flame-tailed fox trembled greatly in its heart, whether it was excitement, fear, as it took the divine fragment. Thor, what kind of big shot with such a background? Still that lake when Thor woke up, the protective cover beside him also shattered. After Saul opened his eyes in a daze, he felt hungry all over. The whole body was emitting an indescribable hunger that reached into the clouds. Nexus. Nexus. The dog-headed man Nexus quickly transformed into a dragon and flew to Saul's side, respectfully saying, "Master, I'll take you to dinner." After Saul had eaten and drunk enough, he looked at the 7 Warcraft beasts, including Nether and the blue-striped flame-tailed fox, and said with an incredible expression, "Has it all been a year?" The blue-patterned flame-tailed fox looked at Thor with extremely complex eyes and said, "Yes.